How do you pronounce your name, Jodi?
It's Jodi LoDolce, which means the sweet in Italian.
And today is Tuesday, November the 14th, correct? No, it's the 15th.
15th.
The 15th. Tuesday, November the 15th. And I have Jodi on the phone, and we are going to discuss how she met Jessie Czebotar and the circumstances surrounding that entire situation. So, Jodi, I'm just going to hand it over to you because this is your story, and we're all ears. So let's start with a prayer. Can you lead us in a prayer first, please?
Absolutely. Father God, first and foremost, we want to remind you that we know that you are all sovereign. We know, you said, come let us reason together. We know that you actually control all timelines. We know that you are the Most High, and we praise you for it. We choose you, Lord, and we thank you for loving us. This time I have with Paula, Lord, I just lay it at your feet. This time isn't to cause harm. This time is to bring truth. I praise you, Lord God, that you will guide our mouths, that you will lead this time together, and that you will help set captives free through truth. I praise you, Lord. I give you all glory and honor in Jesus Christ's mighty name. Amen.
Amen. That was beautiful. Thank you. So how did you meet Jessie?
So I met Jessie after Field started having me on his show. Before I get into that, though, if you don't mind me interjecting this, the whole reason that I am coming out at this time to talk about this is because there are people who just keep dragging me in and dragging me in. I've asked it many times, stop it, and they don't do it. I don't know if they understand or not that they are keeping attention on the wrong person, that Christ is the only one who should be focused on right now. But I felt very led of the Lord to do this, and I trust you to bring this out in all truth and correctness. So, answering your question, I used to pray for Field through email. And one day he wrote and he said, I'm going to go to sleep now because I know Jesus and you have the next watch, because we're both Marines. And so that brought me to tears. A couple of shows later, he says, will that woman Marine please call the show? And I went into oh, how do I find him? Well, I finally got his number and called in, and he asked me to pray. And I'll never forget it because he was like, are you uncomfortable with that? Like, no, I'm ready to pray anytime, So he started having me on regularly. Then he allowed me to have little Bible studies, I do quick teachings, like on Dagon and, just different things to share. And all of a sudden, I started getting inundated in the chats and in email with witches who were attacking me, who were sending me curses. I'd say, I don't receive curses, and I'd email it back. You can have this back. It was ridiculous. I'd have people trying to challenge me on my knowledge of the Word of God, and it became so ridiculous. I was like, this is unbelievable. And I told Field back then, you have a lot of witches in your groups out here. And he said, it's okay, let them all in, we'll sort them out. But there's a dangerous faction that I don't think he realized was out there, and I think they were involved in what happened to him. But anyway, getting back to myself, he eventually had this woman, Sarah Dunklin, who befriended me once I started coming on the show regularly. And she would call and pray with me and do different things. Sarah one day told me there was a woman that wanted to meet me. She was an SRA survivor, and can she give her my number? And I said, of course, because that is my heart to help the children and the survivors. Yeah. So this lady, Jessie Czebotar, she called me on the phone, and she was a sweetheart. We talked about Jesus. We talked about the horrors that she lived through. We talked about, she wanted me to join in a small little prayer group that she had, about 5 ladies. And they were wonderful ladies. We prayed and prayed and prayed, very hard. I became very close to one of them, a lady named Linda. And, it was just a prayer group. But then she started telling us that we needed to stop some certain events. And so I said, well, so we would have these group prayer things. And just to preface this, I have always seen visions since I was a child. I've seen demons, I've seen angels, I've seen Jesus. I've had Jesus come and stand in front of me in vision and hug me. I've seen him in the heavens when I'm praying in warfare and he stands up and his enemies are scattered, or my enemies are scattered. So seeing visions is not a new thing to me, all right?
Yeah.
So in one of these events, I put on the armor of light, which is in Romans 13, verse 12, and then the armor of God. The armor of light is to hide in the presence of God. God is light, and in him there's no darkness. 1 John 1 and 5. All right? So while we're in this event, I'm in my room, I can see my room, my eyes are open, but I'm seeing in vision, in my spirit, what's going on in there. I'm addressing this one prayer because this person that keeps writing about me mentioned that I astral projected somewhere, which I did not. I've never done that. And I'm going to tell you why I've never done that. I have been doing spiritual warfare since I was young. I was saved at age 11, filled with the Spirit, and called into ministry at age 15. Started casting out demons in my early 20s. This is not a new rodeo for me. So there is a lot. I've been told multiple times, hell knows my name. Satan and I are not friends. We have a mutual hate for each other. All right? Yeah. So astral projecting and going out into that realm on a string of silver cord would be dangerous for me.
Yeah.
I would never astral project.
Yeah.
You have to ride, honestly, you have to ride a spirit to do it. And the Holy Spirit's not going to take you for a ride.
Yeah.
So it would be a demon.
Yeah.
So I have never. So getting back, I was in vision, and in this one place, this one event, she said we were going to pray hard, and we were going to stop this event. I was in vision. I could see everything all of a sudden. I could see this Brima, whatever her name is, Dramovic, I forget how to say her name, standing by a table. Now, this is all vision. And I could see the people standing in front of me, and I said to the Lord, where am I? What do I look like here? Because this was new. This was a new vision I've never seen. And the Lord turned my camera, so to speak, and I could see myself. I was an 8-foot, 9-foot pillar of light. And I went, whew, you know. So I went back into prayer, and all I remember was Jessie wanted to make a Drina sick, and and it was just a weird event. It just seemed like a party that was boring, to be honest. Anyway, this guy L that they called her, Lucien Greaves, was there. Her friend Marion was there, but I didn't stay there long. During that event, Jessie said, "Take off your armor, Jodi." She said, "We're going to do this in the name of Jesus only." And I knew my spirit said, "No, I will never take off my armor." And I said that, and then it was over. The prayer was over. I don't have any evidence that anything changed from that prayer, so I became suspicious. I went on one other prayer group meeting like that, and again, I was not astral projecting, never will do that. I was in prayer, wasn't really seeing anything because I asked the Lord to protect me if this was not His Spirit. And they were claiming they were taking a book from the Queen Mother of Darkness and burning it. Anyway, the Lord didn't allow me to see anything that time, but I was in that prayer meeting. The one thing I noticed was nothing seemed to change. If they were actually burning books, things would change in the atmosphere, right? If there was an actual stopping of the Queen Mother of Darkness agenda, things would not be going the way they're going. So I began to have doubts. And then I got a call from an aunt. A lot of people in my family are ministers and saved, all right? And one of my aunts, who's gifted in similar ways to me, said, "Jodi, the Lord just let us know to cover you that you're dealing in some witchcraft, people around you." And I said, "Okay, I'm not in it, just so you guys know, but I'm paying attention. I'm trying to help this SRA." So I let them know I won't be joining into your prayers anymore. My aunt told me that this is more like witchcraft. The Lord has given me that check in my spirit that what you're doing is more witchcraft. And unless he tells me that it's okay to do what you're doing, I'm not going to be doing it anymore. So I stopped going on those kind of adventures, so to speak, or prayers. They called it prayer. I don't know, you know. I do think that people like my friend Linda are sincere. There are people around her who sincerely, you know, felt like they were doing the right thing. So at any rate, I began to have some suspicions. And then we just kept being prayer people. We would pray, and you know. Now this Jessie that I'm talking to then, and I look back at the emails, and it feels like a different Jessie than I met when I went to Florida and after Florida, which is when the Lord told me to move away. This Jessie was sweet, and she seemed to love the Lord. She knew the scripture, and I loved her. I still love her soul. I just don't like some of the things I've seen or heard. So what I believe is going on with Jessie is that Jessie has multiple personalities, or what you would call alters. Yeah. The one that I met is a sweetheart. I think that this altar was created to win the Christian community, to you know, come in and gain favor and gain the attention, and to be what they call a gatekeeper. She's to win your heart and then let you know what they're doing by coming at it like she was trying to stop it, but nothing ever stopped. Yeah. Let me address this one thing that this other person kept reporting on me, even though I told her to stop. She mentioned a movie night. So movie night, Jessie told me back in the day, this is all in the beginning now, all right, was an evangelistic tool that Lucien Greaves used within the satanic groups to lead people to Christ. She told me and many others, and they'll admit it, that he was a Christian in the system to save the children. So she asked me to go, and I went to one, and all it was like a Zoom where you were watching the movie. There were no faces there. You were just watching this movie. And the movie that played that night was about a Christian kid, and I think it was in high school, and you know how they mocked him and did certain things, and I didn't even really pay attention. I was paying attention to what they were saying in the chat and waiting to see if people were going to be offered, you know, a chance to get saved, you know. So basically the movie came and went. There was a lot of Hail Satans, a lot of We Love You, which made me laugh. God is love. When you bring love somewhere, you're bringing God's spirit there. You can't separate God from love. Mm-hmm. So here you have these people claiming to be Satanists talking about love. They don't even realize that they're bringing God into their situation. Anyway, so I'm observing. No altar call at the end, no mention of Jesus Christ the Savior. So the next time Jessie mentioned it, I told her, those are time wasters. I'm not going to that. You know, I wasn't looking to make friends with Satanists. I was looking to set captives free. And I realized that wasn't the agenda, so I didn't go again. So that was movie night. I don't know how many times they did that. I just know she invited me a couple of times after that, and I said no. But anyway, so, do you have any questions up to now?
I have tons of questions. Okay, so we'll wrap up the part with Jessie and Lucien really quick, and then we'll get on to field. But so, you said astral projection. Can you elaborate more on that? And I'll tell you why. Because there's a there is a CIA project where they were actively teaching their students to astral project, and Michael Jaco he speaks of this. He was in the CIA, and he says that he was taught this skill too.
Oh, absolutely.
And there is a Satanist who started out with Lucien Greaves, and he claims that he was supposed to be he was offered the role of Lucien Greaves prior to Lucien Greaves prior to his name is Doug Mesner, or I mean, he's got a bunch of names.
Right. Lucien does, yeah.
Yeah, but before he actually took the role of Lucien Greaves. And he also said that Lucien Greaves was part of the CIA or had connections to the CIA, and didn't elaborate too much, but just having a connection to the CIA speaks volumes. So, Jodi, what do you think? Do you think that Lucien and Jessie are CIA assets? What do you think?
I absolutely think so. And actually, I can verify that Jessie is bloodline and that she is involved with DARPA, CIA, her and Lucien, and they are government assets, but for the wrong side. Now, I get that from someone very high up. I can't go into who that was, obviously. So they both work for Michael Aquino, who is still alive. And
Wow.
Again, I wish I could tell you where I got that from, but I can't.
Well, I'll tell you right now, just to interrupt really quickly, Field McConnell says that Michael Aquino is still alive. He has said it on many occasions to me. So this verifies a lot of what Field and I speak about too.
Wow. Yeah, and as much as I know and love Field, we've never talked about that, so I didn't know he knew that as well.
Okay, well, thanks. That's really important information. So I believe that this group may be, a CIA. I believe they're part of a CIA psyop, if you ask my opinion. Jessie included. We've looked into Jessie, and everything that she says is turning out to be a lot of lies. Nothing matches up. The time frames. The more you dig, the more dishonest she seems. So, but moving forward, I believe they're there to normalize Satanism, to create an entranceway for something bigger later. Like a merging of Christianity with Satanism. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's insane. That's exactly what the Lord warned about in the Bible.
Yeah.
He didn't want us mixing. There is a reason. There's a separation.
Yeah.
But getting back to the astral projection, I know that she's astral projected. She's also bilocated, which is a new term to me. I never knew what that meant. I guess you can be in your body in one place, and you can also kind of astral project somewhere else. And I don't know if that means you're riding two demons, or I have no idea. It just was a new word to me. But there were people that I know she astral projected to their homes, told them what their kitchens looked like, and then they rejected her, and she was angry about it. And I felt bad for her because I truly wanted to pray to believe that she was coming out of that, but thinking she was a victim, it was like hard to get her to understand that some of that was wrong. That was my mindset. So we did a lot of praying. Myself and Linda worked very hard to try to get her into deliverance. And Linda and I both saw about 4 altars. I recognized there's one that I believe is out now that's fully devoted to the Satanist agenda. There's the one that I met. There's a sarcastic, silly, funny teenager and kind of a young girl. There may be more. Those were the 4 that I saw.
Yeah.
But anyway, they do, and they have astral projected. And once I left, even though there's people who said I've done nothing with the information, I let Jessie know in a group email through this girl, Tiffany, who I love all those people, but the Lord had me step away from them all because if people don't understand, they use people to monitor you. They can take your relationship with someone else and see through them to you. And that was happening. And these people don't understand it. So sadly, I've had to hurt them by cutting them off. But there was a group email from this girl, Tiffany. I was attacked saying, oh, now Jodi's turning against me and, to start ministry. I said, I am not trying to start a ministry. I've been in ministry my whole life. And anyone who asks me the truth in private, I will tell the truth. But the Father and God in heaven made it clear to me that I was not to attack her for multiple reasons. So, and I'll get back to astral projecting in a minute. One reason was it was not going to be a ministry against ministry that she would use to gain favor, to try to keep people on her side, me against her. It has nothing to do with me. It's all about Jesus Christ. The second reason was, he said that this is between him and her, that he was going to be giving her opportunities to give all to him. And if she rejected that, then that would be between him and her, and her fall would be a hard one. But I was to have nothing to do with it. It was between him and her. Stay away. Mm. He made me break all relationships, all of it.
Yeah.
And he told me to focus on what he wanted me to focus on, which was his son, the salvation of humanity, and bringing him glory and his will to this earth and waking people up.
Yeah.
That's what I do. But back to astral projecting. So when we got some of these people who would ask questions privately because they had questions, and then they would go, aha, they'd see the truth. Everything we answered brought them to the same conclusion, I need to get away. Their children were met in the astral plane multiple times. These are people across the country, not in one area, but those kids would see the same astral projector, someone in a red dress, someone telling them, one kid they were told that they didn't have eyebrows, another kid in another state was told by a woman in a red dress they didn't have eyelashes. I was told by someone that is a pre-programming conversation that they were trying to have with these kids.
That's insane.
There was a lot of stuff that started happening to the children, and when everybody would talk and realize that they were astral projecting to the kids, we had to go into deep spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not attacking Jessie. Jessie's a victim. Jessie has multiples, in my opinion. And you know, so she needs help.
So let's get back to the field stuff. So we know that Jessie is MK altered. We know that she has multiple personalities. You're not the first person that has said this. You've witnessed 4. Gina Phillips describes the front personality, that sweet Christian one that you describe as they're programmed this way. The front one truly believes that they're saved, but behind them there's a bunch more personalities that are worshiping Satan.
Yeah.
And you're kind of describing the same thing as Gina Phillips also describes in a lot of her patients. But getting back to field, so Sarah Dunklin approached you in the chat of field shows, is that correct?
She called me. Yeah, she had called me. Somehow we got connected, and I honestly think it was Field giving her my number, if I remember right. It was so long ago.
Yeah, he does that. He does that with me. He connects me with people all the time. She was supposed to be part of the Children's Crusade. Now, I've spoke to Field about this. The Children's Crusade never actually was launched. It was still in the idea stages, and positions were offered to people like Sarah Dunklin and Timothy Homeseth because Field and Denise believed that at the time that they were working for good. So even though they were given those positions in name, they never actually were active in those positions. So I just wanted to put that on the record too, because I've straightened this out with Field myself. But so how does Sarah Dunklin and Jessie Czebotar connect?
That I wish I knew, because that was always of an interest to me. You know, there were times that Sarah and I would pray together, and I felt like something was off, and just that there was a little. Some people think that praying for Satan is a good idea for his repentance or whatever. I'm not one of those people, but we did pray together, and you know, and then she introduced me to Jessie, and then you know that was it. So how they met, I don't know, but she was supposed to be a safe house for people, and I don't think that went very good. And then one time she asked me to go to Massachusetts and take somebody's phones away and take them and then have them go to her And the Lord, it was an emphatic no.
Yeah.
There's something wrong here. Be careful.
Yeah.
And, so little by little, I just stopped, trusting a lot of things. And then Tim shows up. When Tim shows up on the site, the one thing I did not know is that Jessie and Tim were always together from the beginning. That's her boy. I found out later that she was paying him a lot of money every month. I don't know if it was to help him or if he was employed, but that will come out later. There's stuff that people in the high-ups understand and know and have evidence of.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Tim and Jessie were connected.
So this is prior to Field?
Yeah, apparently they've always known each other. So at first I thought Tim was a good guy.
Isn't that interesting though, right?
Yeah.
Given the fact that Tim totally deceived Field. So,
he totally.
So again, I still think this is part of a major CIA operation. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's a psyop, and I think that the Tim and Jessie and Randy Erickson and everybody included, including Lucien Greaves, are all part of a massive takedown of whistleblowers and true SRA survivors. I don't feel that Jessie's an SRA survivor. I feel that she's an MK Ultra victim, is what I think.
That's what I think. I think Jessie's a victim. I do not hate her. I will not attack her. The Father told me not to do that. When the Lord Jesus Christ and my Heavenly Father give me an order, I obey it. Yeah. And, and the order was to not attack her. He showed me vision. I went to Florida. I met her. Jessie, I loved. My heart cried for her. The Lord showed me a vision of what was going on in her mind, and I shared it with her, what the Lord showed me, because it was horrific. It was something out of this, feeling like you can't believe it, that someone could be so divided, and the enemy thinking that he could mock Jesus Christ through her. Yeah. So I won't get into the vision because it was personal of her, but it, I shared it with her, that the enemy thought he could play her, and little by little things started getting hostile. The home farm girl that I knew became more angry, was getting aggravated, and the Lord said to me, your counsel is no longer I forget how he worded it, your counsel is no longer desired or something like that. He said it's time to go. This was after I went to Florida. What I witnessed in Florida in the spirit was not Christian stuff. It was mockery. Yeah. And little by little, the Lord began to show me a lot of stuff from that situation. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with judging anyone. It had to do with seeing the demonic in the spirit. And a lot of people I didn't know. I didn't realize how big her ministry was. When she created Illuminate the Darkness, I hated that name. I said, it sounds like you're trying to illuminate darkness, not split it or divide it or expose it. Yeah. I hated the name.
I did a big study on what illuminate means to the occult, and what that means is to invoke demons within. Yeah,
I think they find people who are gifted, and then they try to break you down and rebuild you for them. Yeah. As a Marine, I understand being broken down and rebuilt, and I saw that happening. So, first I just wanted to say, if a Christian says God illuminated that to me, it doesn't mean they're calling demons. People need to stop going hyper-vigilant and going on witch hunts now. It's getting ridiculous. Somebody says,
I totally agree with you. Those words have been hijacked by the enemy. I mean, the enemy hijacks everything and redefines it and recreates it as their own. Right. I mean, how many times do we see this? I mean,
exactly. Well, the Lord spoke to me. He said, the season that we're in right now is Satan's mockery or copy. He's not an original. Everything he does is a copy or a mockery of God. Yeah. And this is his copy of the Tower of Babel. So he's infiltrated the church. These Satanists are pastors. They're in the church. They're worshipers. They're taking the music and making it glorify Satan. And some of these bigger churches, and and this is basically what he's doing. He's taking the what he learned at the Tower of Babel against him, and he's using it against the Christians. So everybody's speaking a different language. Everybody's fighting whether we speak in tongues or don't, or whether we dip or sprinkle someone in baptism, or whether baptism makes you saved or salvation makes you saved if you just confess it. It's a ridiculous.
I know.
Ridiculous.
Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
Exactly.
And it is funny because, I've often said, people go, oh, you this, you that. And it's like, hey, God knows what's in my heart. So you can pray and use whatever words you want, but God knows a person's heart.
The whole thing is that he judges man by the heart. He doesn't see. Now, there's certain things he does talk to us about in his word that we should watch and do, and be holy as he's holy, and live our life as living sacrifices. So our behavior should be a mimic of Jesus Christ in this earth. We should be him, the salt and the light in the earth, the beacon set on a hill that draws people to God.
Yeah.
But, but what's happening is just the witch hunts, and they're hunting Christians, and meanwhile their discernment is so off that they are allowing these, witches to get away with everything they're doing because they know the power of manipulating in words.
Yeah, that's true. And people fall for it so fast. It's just, nobody, I mean, people are starting to think for themselves again, but so many people don't. But I want to get back to the money aspect. So how do we know that, do we have evidence anywhere, Jodi, that Jessie Czebotar was funding Timothy Holmseth prior to them entering field? We do. Okay.
There is evidence of that, and that is in the hands of some higher up people.
Okay.
I'm out of protecting certain people and certain things. I can't go into it much deeper than that, but yes. Okay. There is. Now, Jessie, every bad group, every satanic group will do good things. It helps draw attention to them. For example, like some of these children charities, and they, and you're seeing, they're blessing this when they built a hospital, they did this and did that. But it actually just is a front for what's going on in the back, And this is why we need such great God discernment, because, just because you see somebody do something doesn't mean that they're doing it for the right reason.
Yeah.
We really need, like God sees the heart. We need to start praying for discernment to see and understand the heart of God.
Yeah, exactly.
But and the heart of people through God.
Yeah,
that's what I should have said. But
I've often said that in some of my writings. I said they'll always use a false act of kindness or an act of goodwill as a false front to usher in a dark agenda.
Right.
I mean, it's a common play, and I caught that a long time ago. And once you understand that, I mean, you can't always take things at face value, good and bad. You have to dig in and understand what is the true agenda behind their actions, and then once you start looking into that, you can figure out the true nature of whatever it is, right? So
right. I mean, Jessie had a heart. Like we did things for veterans. That was my only involvement with the Illuminate the Darkness. She asked me if I would help them with veterans. She said she had a heart for veterans. What I do know is there's a lot of satanic stuff that happens within the military community, and the veterans, especially the ones that they can get on psych meds and things like that, are guinea pigs and used horribly.
Well, they're used for MK Ultra projects, and also anybody that is suffering with PTSD has they have gateways that are open to see visions, and I mean, this is a proven fact. Those gateways and those pathways are well treaded, and they have a connection to the divine, especially if they've had a near-death experience. That opens a pathway that people don't quite understand to God. But getting back to Field, so Jessie was trying to meet Field, correct?
Right. She would ask me often, There was a time I thought I was going to be going to Field's house. She asked if she could come, but something checked me in my spirit. So I back then I mentioned it to Field. I don't know if he'll recall it, but I told him I wasn't sure if I was going to do that. I had another gentleman who wanted to meet Field as well. So I was like, I think I'm going to, just kind of leave that where it is and not take anybody,
Yeah.
And it never came to fruition because Field got arrested with that whole Tim Homestead thing.
Yeah. So
Jesse,
Jessie is out there saying that she met Field, and Field has told me on multiple occasions that he does not know Jessie Czebotar. He had no idea who she was. He's never met her, and she's actively lying, saying that she was working with Field McConnell, and that's not true.
Well, that's what she told me when she called me the first time, that she was on a decode team working for Field. And this was our introduction, me and her. She was on the decode team working for Field in the background. And so she would always send these maps and all this decoding, and she's really good at that.
Yeah.
She's
good, but she's not so good either, because I've seen some big mistakes in her decoding as well.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A couple of us have we've chuckled over it a bit. So, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
Yeah. So she was showing me the symbol. Again, this is what gatekeepers do, though, right?
Yeah.
You don't quite ever see a solution to what they're showing you, but they're teaching you their side of it, and that is called a gatekeeper. This way you have the buy-in. They have your buy-in. And the minute you buy in, they have you.
Yeah.
And they use, and that's just one of her altars, it just, and I have to tell you, I cried over her. I prayed that the Lord would save her and integrate her and help her, because a lot of these people, they'll get you to fall in love with them as a friend or whatever, and then when you learn that there's these issues, it really does hurt deeply in your spirit, that you yearn for God to do something in them, but they have to want Him. They have to want Him to to set them free. They have to be willing. And then, Jessie, a lot of people don't know that she speaks German. Do you know I didn't know that the whole time I knew her? Someone who heard them talking told me. I said, no way. She said, yeah, both her and the kid. And then, and all of a sudden, I started learning all this stuff about, a lot of stuff. And I was going, I don't even think I really knew who she was, and I wasn't heavily involved in the Illuminate the Darkness because I didn't want to be, but they kept putting my name on stuff. But they said, oh, well, you're helping with the veteran stuff. And we would give to each other. Like before Jessie got divorced from her husband, she was struggling, and if I had extra money, I'd send it to her. And when she started making really good money through the Patreon, big money, big, she would donate to to a veteran, myself, and this other, me occasionally, but Tim Homestead was every month, and this other guy, John something, John C., I won't say his last name, another veteran, she was giving to him as well. So then they helped me to help a mother whose 30-something-year-old maybe son dropped dead, and we had to bury him, and there was some problems with, and we were able to raise $2,500 for him, and she donated part of that. So they do good things, and like I said, maybe some of their altars are trained to do that, so that it keeps the,
But doesn't the Bible say, beware of strangers bearing gifts?
It does. And one of the last things she sent me, I had great regret, because remember we talked about monitoring? Anything, like I learned not to answer texts, not to answer phone calls, nothing, because anything that you do that invites, that opens anything to them, depending on their insistence, they will take it as okay, yeah, you're letting me in. So even answering a text is a way to say, yes, she wants me in, so I can come monitor. I can tell you things that people wouldn't believe, where they've used animals and different things to watch and monitor.
Yeah.
So, it's a difficult, because I don't want this to come off that I'm attacking her. What I want people to understand is that this is someone who has been, in many ways, through something. As a hierarchy, they don't suffer like people like Cheryl Begg suffered, who was she was an expendable. It's a different kind of life that they had. And it's a different kind of training.
I mean, if you go to Sarah Seeks Truth, her exposing the truth about Jessie Czebotar on Telegram. I mean, they have a whole group there that is just digging and digging and digging, and man, the stuff that's coming up as being made up by Jessie, I mean, none of it jives. I mean, if you just go through that chat, it's like everything is a lie. She's a character made up from what we're seeing.
Yeah, it could be, because I've seen her German birth certificate with the Illuminati symbols on it. That could be fake. I've seen her back in the day. This was in the first year that I met her, or didn't meet her, but, was phone friends or prayer partners or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I've seen, like, her school pictures. Yeah. I've seen, different things that she showed the small little prayer group as evidence of who she was and where she came from, but that all can be fake. I don't know.
Well, especially if she's working and she's being funded through the CIA. I mean, they could pull anything up.
Oh, they can pull anything, yeah.
And like, again, I'll take it back to Shane Bugbee. He was saying that Lucien Greaves was definitely connected to the CIA through writings and papers, and he went to Harvard, and I mean, the CIA is notorious for recruiting through the universities. Yeah. And Jessie says that she was a lifelong friend of his. So, I mean, and the stories have changed surrounding him as well. It seems like the narratives change. It's like her and Tim have a common, the narratives change to suit their situation. And those affidavits that she put out, I mean, all the misspellings and humanity. Well, why on earth, if it's a crimes against humanity case, would it not be filed with the criminal courts? Why would Randy Erickson be hiding them in a civil case against, I'm talking, it's a civil case against Craig Sawyer, and then they all claiming it went through the family courts. I've seen no evidence. I have dug, okay? I have dug and I have dug. There is no evidence. It's all lies. It's all manipulation and lies.
Yeah, if I can interject this, what she is doing is misspelling and putting false things in these fake affidavits that are dangerous to the case of someone else. Someone who's trying to get their child out of the system. Yeah. See, one of the things that bothered me, Jessie wrote one time a text someone, because once I walked away, I listened to the Lord, and I've had nothing to do. And honestly, even when I was friends with her, I really didn't listen to her shows. I didn't like her cadence. Her cadence bothered me. I felt like there was something going on with programming with that. So this is like as I started learning more, I feel like I was deceived, and I'll admit it. I was deceived by her. Yeah. And maybe there's still stuff that I'm deceived by. Who knows? Yeah. But I do know that there was a child that she told the mother that they were going to help get out of the system. Boots are on the ground. They're going to get Jonah Reeves. And at the last minute, she said, oh, they can't do it. They have to pull back. Do you know what that did to that mom? And then I wanted to talk and pray with that mom, and I was kept from her. Nobody would give me her number. Another woman connected to that mom did the same thing, called me one time. We supposedly got disconnected, and then never would give me the information on that mother. And then recently I did a show, and that mom came on the show with us, and it was like, oh, Father, thank you, because I was praying that the Lord would reconnect. Because you know why, Paula? If enough of us believers speak in one voice, in one mind, in one accord, it moves the hand of God when we walk in faith. Yeah. And it's time for the children that have been supposedly going to get rescued, which I have never seen evidence of any of the children that she said they rescued. I saw her thwart Jonah's case because later somebody else had said it, that she said that he was pegged to be the Antichrist. But then there's people who think plutonium is. So, you know,
I think Satan has more than one choice, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But so she didn't rescue him because she thought that he may have been positioned to be the Antichrist. I mean, that's very telling.
Yeah,
too,
well,
right?
she claimed that they had boots on the ground, and then they had to pull out for the last minute. And then they claimed that there was another time in the prayers that they had rescued some kids, and I was like, where are they? Where's the evidence of it? And they're like, oh, we gave them to the Native American people. And now I love Native American people. I have dear friends that are Native. I've been to many powwows. I love the Native people. And
yeah, but there's nefarious activities with the Native people too. I know. I'm in Canada. I know.
Yeah. So I was like, why would you send kids there and not to safe places within our own country, government, because they're separate from us. They have different laws, so they can get away with different things. But anyway, correct. So that was confusing. Then there was Jessie mentioned in this tweet that I'm getting back to that asked Jodi something about the 13 mothers, or I forget how she worded it because I didn't really see it, but I never saw evidence that any 13 pregnant women were rescued.
Thank you. I
was told, again, I was no longer allowed by Father to see the visions. Jesus did not walk me through this. Everything shut down because the Lord knew it was actually witchcraft. But so when they ask me these questions, if they want me to answer publicly, which I'm doing now, the truth is I've never seen evidence of anything that anyone was ever saved or rescued. I have seen where Field was arrested. I have seen where certain people in these groups that she had, which I found out later existed, I didn't know while I was in the prayer group, that they were following Robert David Steele, and that included Tim following him. Yeah. Evidence of things like this group was told to look up a fairground in Houston, and a year later a bunch of people die there. There's too many coincidences. Yeah. Astral world or land or whatever it is. Too many coincidences. And so the Lord told me to get away and be quiet. And this is the first time, because people just will not listen and leave me alone. And then it's like the Lord gave me permission to come on with you, not attack, but tell the truth. I don't want to attack anybody. It's not what God wants. Yeah, no. He loves us all. And these people, whether she is just a CIA operative or truly a victim, I don't know. I do know some of her. Of
MK Ultra. I don't believe she's an SRA victim.
Yeah, more MK Ultra.
I think she's more MK Ultra, and then just the narratives. I mean, okay, so there's nothing, just straight up, there's nothing that she has said that has not already been said before, and I have seen this repeatedly with satanic ritual abuse. Naming people and operatives that were involved. I mean, there's nothing new. She hasn't brought anything new to the table, right? Which tells me, and Gina Phillips says this. She goes, there's a program where they collect other people's testimonies and make it their own, and they actually believe it because they're MK Ultra to believe it. So,
and that I know because I know people she's actually taken their testimony.
Okay.
So that I know.
So you can confirm that then that has in fact happened with Jessie.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
And honestly, if you go through a lot of what she says, you'll find the errors. For example, she says that Lucien's sister was raped by the police chief, and this and that and the other thing, and that guy wasn't even a cop at that time, is what I was told.
I know, and that Lifting the Wool or whatever site that's doing it, that's backing Jessie fully. I mean, she hasn't even done the research on that either.
Right.
That's that chief from, it was a Velope County or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I'll have to put it up, but because I can't pull it from the. I don't have. I'm not like Field. I don't have like total recall.
I know, right?
I have to pull things up to talk about it, but people have done the cross referencing on that, and you're absolutely right. He was not even involved in the police at that
location.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, she mentioned certain locations in Carlsbad. I think in her affidavit, those don't exist in Carlsbad because she's taking it from someone else's testimony.
Yeah.
These affidavits, someone told me, she said that they raided Mar-a-Lago to get her affidavits out of the safe. I actually felt so sad and embarrassed for her.
I know, because whoever,
it is quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I know people who are in a position to know what was going on in Mar-a-Lago, and they said the same thing. Sad and embarrassing, you know. And
it has nothing to do with Jessie. Jesse's not that significant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why these people who will not leave me alone when the Lord told me to step away have nothing to do. There was a reason for it. He has called me by the age of 15 to be in ministry. My life is for Him.
Yeah.
They were trying to attach to different people who really love the Lord, who really their lights shine bright. And what they'll do is they'll hide behind you while they're doing their demonic stuff. And like if these people who are pushing, they're keeping the focus on Jessie. Jessie is insignificant. The only value is her soul. That is why I fought for so long to really get her to, we really wanted her to go through deliverance and integration and get baptized in the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues. Just that, because that's how this Christian believes, okay? But when the constant attention is on her, it draws innocent people into her. Yeah. It's just like when there was a gentleman who was really sweet, but he started throwing everybody under the bus at the children's crusade. There were innocent, wonderful people who supported Field, who did not know that all this witchcraft and stuff had tried to infiltrate him to take him down. You know, and so they were throwing everybody, and it's like, wait a minute, many of us were there because of our love for children.
Yeah.
A lot of people may not know, but I am a child of abuse. I was molested, beaten, a lot of stuff, my life threatened from age 5 to age 11.
Yeah.
Then it seemed after that I had a target on me, because every pervert, even in the Marine Corps, that it came near me would do things and try to rape me. Even in 6th grade, an art teacher tried to rape me.
It's the same with me, Jodi. I went through the same stuff.
Yeah.
My sister was trafficked. It's the same thing. That's why I have such a passion for this, because when you were a victim of that, you want to make sure that no other child goes through what you went through. And
yeah, and I've said that a million times, Paula. I don't ever want a child to taste the things I had to taste, smell the things I had to smell, and feel the pain and the horror of what I never. I would rather kill someone and sit in a jail cell for the rest of my life if I ever saw somebody touching a kid than allow that to happen to another child. I've heard children that someone was trying to rape, and the cries, and this is what it's about. It's about bringing Christ into the world. It's about exposing this evil and stopping these people. See, what people don't understand is these Satanists, they don't see children like we do, as precious, innocent, coming from the Father, gifts. The Bible calls them gifts. They see children as innocent, being the closest to God. So the more kids we hurt, the more we hurt God.
That's exactly what it is.
So praise God for people like you and I who don't become predators. We become hunters of predators,
Yeah.
So
I've been a boots on the ground my whole life. I mean, people, that whole group, oh, Paula got fired from a daycare center. Well, yes, I lost my job in November of 2020 over vaccine mandates. I'm still working. I'm still licensed. I am employed today, and I work in child development, and I work with disabled children because they're the most vulnerable. And I truly do love children. People, oh, that's so creepy. She loves children. I do. I do love children. I've dedicated my life to defending children.
Children is Jesus creepy? He loves the children.
Yeah.
He said, "Suffer not, but let them come to me." Exactly. Unbelievable. So they take everything that's good and make it bad, and everything that's bad and make it good.
And that's why I keep my name up, Paula Loves Children, and that creepy emoji that I have with the little girl saying shh, because that was me being silenced as a child. That represents me, how I was. And that little girl that you silenced? Well, look at me now. And and people, I like it too because it trolls them, and it also shows me the character of somebody that just openly comes out and attacks me. It shows me where they're at as far as being awake. I like that emoji for many reasons, and I won't change it. I know who I am. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I already know who I am. God knows who I am, and I do walk with Jesus, and Jesus has presented himself to me on more than one occasion. So, I mean, these people, oh, there's no way she could be a Christian. She's too crass. Well, I think Jesus was a little crass when he was flipping those money changing tables in the synagogues as well. So, Jesus wasn't all fluffy, people.
No, he wasn't.
It just is. When you become really passionate about what you're doing, it just happens. And we're human, and we are imperfect. So
and we've got to stop judging each other. On the big things, we judge our fruit. If I'm judging your fruit and your fruit is showing me something, just like what happened when I was in the Jessie group, I started to see fruit that was not of Christ. It was not, it was not of God. And then the Lord started giving me visions, and I would present them, and they were not received, and a whole bunch of other things. And the Lord, he finally just said to me, "Get away."
Yeah.
And Jess doesn't like that, and I'm sure she doesn't. That front altar, but she doesn't like that.
But you know what? It's gone beyond the front altar now. I mean, she's openly and willingly and publicly lying. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's beyond that for me. And I mean, I've made mistakes. I trusted Tim too. So look where it got failed. Look where that trust. Look where the trust of Sarah Dunklin got Cindy Absug. I'm sorry. Look at where it got failed. I mean, they're all victims, and I believe Tim Homeseth, and I was a supporter of him for a long time, and I was. Randy Erickson approached me and asked. I didn't approach Randy Erickson.
Right, same like me.
She approached me and said, "We need to be. You need to friend me." And I was like, "Okay." And then we became very close for 2 years. But there was always things about her that struck me as very odd, and I would just send those conversations up the pipe. So I was like, "This is odd," but I always stuck with her because I always hoped that they were the real deal. But when I dug into Tim's work, and it took me months. I read his book. I read his. All his writings, I read and all of his court stuff, and it was all BS. It was all BS. Some of his stuff is legit, but a lot of it was hijacked from other people's writings. It's the same type of technique that Jessie uses. It's testimonies and stuff from other people that he has made his own. And he's got so many versions of everything that he can pull up an old writing to help support a narrative today, because he's got 5 or 6 versions of every story. And he is a real spin doctor, and it's a very dark practice.
Well, one time, just kind of Denise Fields deceased wife, she had come back from the UK, and there was something that Tim published that said was a quote of mine. As it turns out, I didn't quote this thing. I didn't say this thing out loud. Later, Jessie told me she said it, and he published it, and it caused a rift between Denise and I.
Well, that's what they do.
She thought I had said something, and I didn't say it publicly. Yeah. And so it broke my heart because her and I had to have conversations to try to heal what happened, you know. Yeah. And eventually it did. You know, eventually we just talked again, but she was being jerked around big time by Tim and somebody named Terry Nimmers.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get me to write something against Kim Picasio, and I refused. Field was already in jail, and, you know, I refused to write anything because I didn't know anything. I'm not going to say anything about something I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a story in and of itself with Kim Picasio, and we hope to have Kim on our show, Field and I, because we know that they were weaponized against each other. We know they were. Yeah. Both parties understand this fully today, and they will be okay with each other. They haven't spoke yet because they're not allowed to, because of the conditions of Field's gag order. But I know that they are good. I know that both of them are very okay with each other today. And it was evident. It was evident when Kim came forward to try and help him reduce his probation sentence. So, I mean, you can't. There's no more proof than that today, but there will be. This is not over. Yeah. The exposing of this agenda is not over. I will be speaking with Megan Fox later. I think later this week. We will be discussing Field's deception. She believes that Megan Fox, according to her research, and this is how it looks, that Field was very instrumental in the problems with Cindy Absug. Well, Field was deceived too. So, I mean, once we get to the bottom of all this, I mean, nothing can stop the truth from coming. It is coming. Yeah. And everybody can say whatever they want. It will not stop.
Right. And you know, and for, you know, there was a time that I cried a lot because I believed Jessie, I believed her story, you know, and I helped get her on programs, and so I felt responsible for the people that got deceived by her, you know, people who spent their hard-earned money, you know, even though some of it did go to good, she did, like I said, donate certain things. They would make different crocheted things, and I'd give them to the veterans at Walter Reed Hospital. I prayed over all of that because you never know if there's anything attached.
That's the thing, right? So they'll always hide behind acts of kindness and acts of goodwill. That's how they do it. That's how they hide. So they might invest 10% of what they're intaking to on these false fronts to make them look better than what they are, but the 90% of the cash is being used for nefarious activity. And they're whistleblower traps because people think that they're doing good things. So real whistleblowers will go to them, and those are the whistleblower traps. Yeah. So we have to be so careful. You know, we're dealing with the devil. I mean, right. So.
And I want to publicly apologize to anyone who got caught up in that because I was deceived for a little while. And I wasn't totally deceived, and I've said that from the beginning. I wasn't a fan, I wasn't following, I wasn't watching, you know, but I was helping her. I thought I was helping someone who was abused to get out of that stuff and to stay out of it. Because it was always like there's devils outside trying to get me, Leviathan's crawling up my leg. I saw that in the spirit, that there were demons all around. But I want to publicly take this time to apologize to anyone who was deceived because of my deception. This has been, you know, spiritual warfare was always my forte, and this was a step up in a war that I had not known existed. It's like America's at war right now, and we don't even realize we're at war. Because right now the street's quiet. There's nobody rioting in front of our houses. But we're at war. This is the greatest fight for our country we've ever been in. And this is kind of what happened to me spiritually. You know, I was casting out demons. Walk in a room and their heads spin around and they growl. And that kind of warfare I was familiar with. Yeah. You know? But this kind of thing where they come and they're your friend and you fall in love with them and they're fun and they're funny and, you know, and then you start seeing things that are a little off. It's almost like Biden's mask, you know.
It's an infiltration. It is an operation. And don't feel bad. I fell for it too, and so did Field. Yeah. And we're of sound mind, but that shows our true nature, because you judge a person by their fruit, so you give everybody the benefit of the doubt until you know otherwise. And that's part of how God created us to be. So don't feel bad. I've apologized too. I felt terrible for the people that I led astray with my support for Timothy Holmstuff. I've apologized publicly. It was a very humbling experience for me, especially apologizing to Kim for attacking her. Kim is a nice person.
I think a lot of good people get caught up in their systems by accident. And what happens is, in the witch hunts, they're burning people who aren't witches just because they got caught up in it. Exactly. You know, so there's a lot of innocent people that will help the Lord and the good and the white hats, if you want to call it that. And they'll do it because they never intended or meant to be there. There's people, children in Satanism that don't want to be there. You know, we really have to knock it off. We have to learn how to discern with the eyes of God, with the heart of God. Love never fails. Does that mean we take a Satanist by the arm and cuddle them and love them? No, it means we pray the love of God down upon them. We ask God to redeem and release these captives, and to let the Spirit of the Most High God rise in them and defeat the darkness that was put in them from childhood. I mean, it's not black and white. Satan did a good job while the church was asleep to paint things a lot of gray. Exactly. And what did Jesus say? He said, be hot or cold or I'll spit you out. And there's a lot of that middle warmness. There's a lot of it. And, you know, pastors, I was told that Satanists will take on pastor roles, rabbi roles, even
it's
the
an
Muslims.
Infiltration beyond anything we've ever seen. But on a lighter note, what people don't realize is the good has also infiltrated the dark. But the good hasn't bragged about it. So, and it's very quiet. So I think we're going to be very surprised at who is who when this all plays out.
Yes, I agree with you. So, but the reason I remained quiet, I wasn't quiet, guys. I know someone keeps going that, you know, I didn't know, I knew stuff and I did nothing with it. There were many. I'm talking about people at Clay Clark events when I would go invited by Clay to those events that would come up to me and say, we trust you. Tell us about, you know, what was going on there. And I would tell them. And I had put that in that email. I started to say this, that I would tell the truth to anyone who asked privately. You know, and many people, not only through an alliance of mine with really good people who I just love, we were able to get a lot of people out and away from those ministries. And those people, a lot of them just walked away, and some of them wanted to go through the deliverances and make sure that they were...
You know what I mean? So a lot of good has come out of this, and Jessie's platform and Tim's platforms, they're crumbling. It's falling apart right before everybody's eyes. And I'm glad, because it's time. It's long overdue. People that were having her on people that were having Jessie on the shows have stopped. Nobody has Tim on a show now. I don't even know where Tim is. He hides his face. Tim and Randy are up on criminal stalking charges. I mean, It's fallen apart. I think that I knew that they were under investigation. I was told well over a year ago that they were under investigation. I think that the good guys are just letting them really bury themselves, so there's no escape, and they're collecting all that low-hanging fruit. So
that's what I was told too, because I got upset with something, and I asked someone I know, you know, and I said, why do they keep letting her talk when you guys know that this is off, that there's something wrong here, people are being deceived? And they said they're letting her expose herself. Yeah. You know, and
the others, look how many, I see how many others are getting exposed because of this. I mean, I'm sitting back, I chuckle sometimes when I see somebody say something, because I know what's going on. I laugh. I can't help it. It's like, oh my goodness, are they really that dumb? Are they really? They really are blinded. Like, they really have been cast to their own delusions. It's so biblical right now. And I'm just sitting back. I'll keep exposing it. You know me. I'm a bit of a warrior. I'm known to fight this on a public level. I've done it always. That's just the nature of me. I'm kind of fearless I don't get scared when people threaten me and stuff. So
I've been threatened galore. Like I can't even tell. I've been threatened constantly. I've had people show up with wood chippers and pretend that they were stuck in front of my house. I've had people astral project into my home, kicking my bed. You know,
I've experienced a lot of what you've experienced, Jodi. I won't get into it, but I've seen that whole where the figure shows up in your room and the cloak. That's happened at my house too. And Nathan and I, both of us have spiritual vision too, and we've seen it together. So when you're sitting with your partner who can see what you see, that's what's the brilliance about Nathan and I, is that we have the same vision. So we sometimes go, whoa, do you see what I see? And then we'll just pray on it and boom, it's gone. But but I'm looking forward to him coming on your show, but that's another subject.
I would love that. So, if I can encourage the folks, the one thing that the Lord told me, he told me to get away from everything. And he said, I want you to do this. He said, I want you to focus on my son.
Yes.
He said, not the Antichrist, but the Christ.
Exactly.
And I have goosebumps saying that to you. And he also told me that I was to follow him, and he began to walk me through a series of, I call them 11th hour changes, where I would do something out of compassion in my heart. It wasn't his will, and I'd have to step through saying, oh, I can't do that now because the Lord is saying no. Immediate obedience.
Yes, because he told me before I started this journey of writing for him, which he told me I would be right. I had no idea what this meant when he told me. It's all manifested, but he said the same thing. He said, my love has conditions. So he taught me those conditions and led me to the 10 Commandments and said, this unconditional love thing is an enemy play. And there are conditions, and you need to follow what I say. And if I say stop. So I'm just confirming what you are saying to me, because I was given the same message.
You and I and people like us, we're following the footsteps of our Savior. We are on this earth to bring truth, to shine His light into the darkness. And the only focus that anyone should have should be on Jesus Christ. And the minute that they hear something that's so far-fetched, I pray that the scales be removed from their eyes and that they see the truth. When someone's saying that they're raiding the president's safe for my affidavit, think about it. Think about what they're saying to you, how ridiculous that is.
It was the most, I laughed. You know what? I laughed so hard over that. But the people that believe it, I was like, oh, I felt bad for them. But you can't talk any sense into them. They are so brainwashed. It's like, whatever. They'll learn like I learned about Tim. They'll learn the hard way. I learned the hard way. Field learned the hard way. You learned the hard way. So I don't believe I believe though that these are life lessons, and as I learned from the school of hard knocks, and I'm always humble enough to admit my mistakes. So
me too. And that's why I wanted to come do this with you. I wanted to let people know I haven't been silent. I have been helping people.
You've been talking to me about it the whole time. I just I respected your wishes.
So the other thing, along with encouraging everyone to keep their eyes on Jesus, is I want to remind everyone of their authority in Jesus Christ. We have authority in Jesus Christ. So every day I learn from someone, a deliverance minister, and I do this every day, sometimes more than once a day. I bind and rebuke all witchcraft, every form, fashion, style, type, any seances, any tantric magic. I bind those demons and rebuke them and ask the Lord to send a recompense upon the person who sent it to lead them to salvation, to let them see the error of what they're doing. If they don't go to salvation, the choice is theirs, and then they will reap what they sow. I also bind and rebuke all astral projectors, all remote viewing, and all bilocating. We want no one to be able to come in, so bind and rebuke all monitoring spirits. They can even try to come in pets. They can come in on material that they will try to bewitch, to try to, if they send it to your house and you have it in your house, get rid of anything that you feel isn't of God or that was given to you by someone you question. And then bind and rebuke all monitoring spirits, all astral projection, all remote viewing and bilocating. And the other thing is to bind and rebuke every word spoken against you. In Isaiah 54:17, the Lord teaches us that no weapon formed against us shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against us we shall condemn. So we can bind those tongues. We can bind the gossipers and those that would try to hurt our witness. But we have to be proactive in it. Okay, we have to bind and rebuke and walk in the Spirit. And those that walk in the Spirit of God, we are the sons of God. So that's all I wanted to add there. Thank you so much, Paula.
Amen. Thank you so much, Jodi, for coming and speaking to me. Thank you for trusting me. It was a great message, and I think a lot of people will learn from this. So on that, I'm going to say good night and God bless.
God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye, my friend.
Bye-bye.